Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Hot for Teacher, Shakespeare Made Us Fall in Love by Felicia, Carparelli, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. To be or not to be, that is the question, quoted a tall, skinny man in Juliet West's adult intro to literature class. But what is it really? What does Hamlet mean? What is the question? He was so serious and so young. His bow tie quivered as he spoke. His voice cracked a little on the syllable quest before it dropped dramatically on the chun. A deep voice guffawed in the back of the classroom. Yeah, what is the question, teacher? Juliet sighed and put down her glasses. She knew that deep voice. She knew it well after only 30 minutes. It belonged to the blonde, muscular hunk in the back of the class, the older guy with the tight jeans, cowboy boots, and tiny gold earring. Ah, Mr. She looked at her class list. Sanders. What is so funny? And may I remind you, class, that it is polite to wait until one student has finished with a question before we. But Anne? He asked innocently with a smile like a choir boy. She frowned and bit her lip. Peter, the question that Hamlet is presenting is a rhetorical one, she said. There is no real answer. It demands, here she looked pointedly at the big blonde jock, thought and reflection. Ouch, the big one said and wrote something in his notebook. Tonight, I'm going to pass out our first play, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Does everyone know a little bit about the story? She looked around her class of 20 students. A hand shot up, lean and tanned. I don't know the story, he said. Can you teach it to me? A ripple of laughter ran around the room. Oh, she would teach him a thing or two, all right, before the summer was over. Certainly, Mr. Sanders, that's why you're here, isn't it? To learn something about literature and culture and life? Jim, he said. What? She said, noticing the ice blue glints in his eyes. Jim, call me Jim. That's my name, he said, and smiled again. All right, Jim, and everyone else in the class, here's what I would like you to do. Read the first 43 pages of the play before we meet next week. That will take us up through the famous balcony scene. Then I want you to write down 5 questions you have about the play and 5 facts you learned or liked about it. Then we will pool our questions and focus on concepts. Heads were bent, fingers grasped pens, and papers shuffled. The room was silent except for the sounds of students writing down the assignment and looking through their copy of the play. One golden head was not bent in writing. It was aimed directly at her. She put on her glasses, ran her hands through her chin-length wavy brown hair, and without realizing it, stood up a little straighter. Chest out, tummy in, as Mother used to say. For this display of femininity, she got a big wink. Juliet felt a little trickle of moisture slipping between her breasts. Now, before you go, I'd like you to write down what you personally would like to learn in this class. If you have taken any previous college-level literature courses, please let me know. If you have a word processing program on your phones or devices, please tell me that too. Please hand in your comments before you leave. This time, everyone settled down to write, including the blonde giant. At the end of the class, you know who was the last to leave. Here's my paper, Mrs. West, he said like a good schoolboy. He towered over her, sitting at the desk. She was a tall woman, 5 feet 10 without shoes, but this man was huge, probably 6 feet 6 inches of lean, tanned muscles. He had chiseled cheekbones and honey-colored brows framing the bluest eyes she had ever seen on a human. Thank you, she said, giving him a glance. Can I walk you to your car? He asked. It's late and dark and the parking lot is isolated. Thank you, but I'm not leaving yet. I wouldn't want you to get mugged, he said pleasantly. By whom? She asked. She couldn't resist. Ouch, he said again. I deserve that, I guess, for acting up in class. Sorry, I've never been to college and I don't know how to act. She felt a moment of remorse. Not everyone has had your opportunities, Juliet. You're doing fine, she said. Sorry to be so cross with you, but when you started laughing at Peter quoting Hamlet, I was ready to ask you to leave. Or make me sit in a corner, a timeout, he smiled. Something like that, she said, smiling back, in spite of the warning bells in her head. I'll behave better next time, I promise, he said. He leaned down and put his hands on the desk. She could see the strength in his long fingers and stared at the golden hairs that sprang out of his knuckles. She exhaled a long breath. Are you sure you won't let me walk you out of here? It seems a little warm in this classroom tonight. Too much humidity outside, I guess. Maybe it's so warm because you're standing so close to me, she said sweetly. And no, thank you. I can have the security guard see me to my car. I'm invading your personal space, he smiled. I usually don't get that complaint. I'm sure you don't, she agreed. She stared up at him insolently. All right, then, he said. I'll get the hint. I'll catch you later, Miss Teacher Lady. And with a devilish smile, sauntered out of the room, giving her a good view of his firm backside encased in tight jeans. The silver heels of his boots glinted provocatively. A dude, she thought to herself, and took off her glasses. When have you ever gotten close to a dude, Juliet? You only know teachers and college kids. She looked through her students' papers. She became fascinated with their personal goals and dreams and lost track of the time. One paper had fringed edges and purple ink. Dear teacher, I'm sorry I acted up in class tonight. I didn't mean to laugh, but when the kids started quoting "to be or not to be, that is the question," I couldn't help myself. Some of these college kids are so serious. Never been to college and never been serious. Well, maybe once or twice. I don't know how to act in school anymore. It's been so long, but I'm going to try because you seem like a really nice lady. I want to tell you, I think you're a great teacher. I really liked it tonight when you were talking about Romeo and Juliet and how they were sometimes so many obstacles in the course of true love, and how wealth and social class can ruin a relationship or the lack of it. I know what that means. I always had to work for whatever I wanted. I grew up poor, and when I was a kid, we slept 3 in a bed. So I know what it's like to have nothing. Now I'm grown and I'm not poor anymore, and I want to improve myself. I want to learn things like how to buy good wine and take a woman to a French restaurant and know what the hell they're talking about on the menu. That's why I'm taking this class. I need culture. I was a Marine. I run my own construction company. I've been married and I have kids, but I'm not a classy guy. You're going to help me. Hey, this is only the first class and I feel smarter and more refined already. I'm going home and I'm going to read Romeo and Juliet tonight, the whole play. Anyway, I wanted to let you know, since you asked us to write about our goals in Shakespeare, and I know that you're going to be a dynamite teacher this summer. So thanks. And and I don't mean to disrespect you, but you're the prettiest teacher I ever seen. Juliet West wrinkled her nose. She looked at the essay sitting on top of her laptop and frowned. What the heck was this? Was she going to have another year of strange students with behavioral disorders in her class? She was teaching literature at Thomas Jefferson College. She wasn't a therapist, so why did she get these students who bared their souls to her? She just wanted to teach literature, not be a life coach. Why was he taking her class? Why would a man with big biceps and a big smile and spiky honey blonde hair sit in the back of the class wanting to hear her go on about Shakespeare? With his feet propped up in the chair in front of him, wearing macho boots and the rest of him packed into tight jeans and a t-shirt that said Sanders Construction, he looked like he could be working for the World Wrestling Federation. She wasn't used to stone-cold types in her classes. He was attractive, and he set her pulses racing, just when she had embraced her celibacy. This kind of distraction she didn't need during class time. She looked at her watch. She had been sitting reading their essays for an hour. It was getting late. Time to head home. Sometimes she went to her yoga studio after class and went to the corner pub to have a glass of wine and talk to her neighbors. But tonight she didn't feel like it. She felt too restless. It was better to go home and write to her daughter. Her daughter, named after the French writer Colette, was in London on vacation with her family. Why didn't you come to Europe with us? Her daughter had asked. I promised to work this summer. Besides, the house is going to need a new roof, she had said with genuine regret. I wish Daddy hadn't left you with so many debts, Colette said. I hate to think of you here all alone. I'm not alone, she had laughed. She liked to keep up the illusion that she had a social life. After her divorce 5 years ago, she had dated a lot of men. She had been the proverbial kid in the candy shop sampling a little bit of everything. But no one had really made her feel special or alive, and she had declined all offers of lovemaking. Now her dating life was on hold while she got her head together. No more did she go out with just anyone that looked good to her. She used to meet men at the yoga studio or church and at the park with her granddaughter. She often attracted much younger single men who told her about their lives, bought her dinner, and then tried to take her to bed. She had allowed herself to go to dinner and be kissed on the doorstep a couple of times, but she really was the kind of woman who wanted to be in love with a man before she slept with him. She had been faithful to only one partner for 25 years, and now she was waiting for someone special. But she had been waiting a long time. For whom she wasn't sure, but she had felt it for a moment tonight, a whisper of interest and desire. How could she feel an attraction to a complete stranger? A cute man sitting at the back of the class, smiling at all the women and especially at her. She hated this kind of student and this kind of man. He was so secure. She could tell he thought it was funny having a woman tell him what to do. Oh, he wasn't disrespectful. She could tell that right away, but he bothered her. Yes, ma'am. I know how to use a dictionary. And no, ma'am, I don't have a red pencil. And I'll try not to chew my gum so hard, ma'am, right in front of your face, he had said, smiling tonight in class. Why was he always smiling? He couldn't be happy, could he? When he had asked her tonight if she thought it was possible to fall in love at first sight like Romeo did with Juliet, she felt her cheeks grow warm. Anything is possible, she said primly, particularly when it concerns the human heart. He had just leaned back in his chair and smiled some more. Her life had never lived up to her literary name. No man had scrambled up her balcony to profess undying love. No man had said to her, "It is the east, and Juliet is the sun." No man had ever defied the stars just to be with her. She was such a romantic. She believed the stuff she taught her students. She was shaking her head as she arrived home, pulling up in her battered but solid VW Beetle to her Victorian frame house, painted in pastel shades of lilac, tan, and sage. Her young neighbor, Beatrice, was sitting on the front porch painting her nails purple. "How was school today?" Juliet asked her. "It was all right, but this college might be too hard for me. They look so serious." She was an artist and had magenta hair, toe rings, and a pierced navel. She was majoring in art therapy and loved kids. "Nonsense. You'll do fine. You couldn't stay at the junior college forever. Is your mom back?" "Tomorrow night. I wish she didn't have to travel for a living." "I know," Juliet agreed, "but it's a great job and she's so good at training. If you get lonely, dear, come over and talk to me. You know that. Anytime." "Thanks, Juliet," Beatrice laughed. "I like having two moms. How are your summer classes going?" "Okay, I think of a few of the students might get what I'm talking about right away, and the others are going to have to concentrate," she told her. "Any cute guys?" "A few," she said, but she was thinking of one perpetually smiling student who was the most intriguing in her class. What was he up to? "I should take your class then," Beatrice said. "No one is interesting in my school." "Then you can concentrate better and get good grades," Juliet said with a smile. "You have plenty of time for boys later." Beatrice groaned. "Ugh, you sound like my mother. I know, guys can be trouble." "How true," Juliet agreed. "Have you seen Charles lately?" "No, I wonder where he's gone off to," Juliet replied, frowning. Last semester, she had taken a class at the library and a rare book had gone missing. Charles had been a suspect, but it turned out Juliet had been his alibi as she was giving him a makeup exam. Still, even though the police had cleared him, she had always wondered. There was something a bit odd about Charles. "You don't really trust him, do you?" "I wanted to, but his story seemed so rehearsed." "Let's hope he doesn't come back to school," Beatrice said. "I know," Juliet agreed. "No more drama, please. I need students who will behave." But would they all behave themselves? Juliet took a shower after writing her daughter a lengthy text about her day. She made a cup of chamomile tea and lay on the floor to do her yoga stretches in her studio. The phone rang. "Darn," she said. Juliet was in the middle of a spinal twist, a yoga exercise that promoted a supple back and no lower back pain, and she had to push herself up from the floor without spilling her tea and reach over to the table. She dropped her cell phone under a stack of yoga mats. "Hello," she said, a little out of breath from the stretch and the scramble. "Mrs. West?" "Yes, who is this?" she said, looking at her dark tangle of hair in the mirror. "It's James Sanders. I'm one of your students. I saw you tonight, remember?" Her stomach tied up into an instant knot. Of course she knew that voice. Hot, dripping honey. What was the matter with her? Too much ginseng and St. John's wort? Too much natural estrogen? "Yes, I remember. How can I help you?" I hope I'm not bothering you because you gave us your email address and phone and said to text you at any time, but I didn't know how long it would take for you to answer me, so I took a chance and called you. I hope you don't mind." What could she say? What can I say? I put my number on the syllabus." Dummy. He laughed a little, the sexiest chuckle she had ever heard. "I'm glad you did," he said in a husky voice that made her breathe a little faster. "How can I help you?" She repeated. He was probably too young for her, about 40. Whoa, what was she thinking about? "Well, I hate to tell you this, but tonight I've got a date with a lady, a very special lady," he said. "And I wanted to lay on her the stuff you said in the class about this flower or bud or Budweiser of love or something about a breath. That's nerve," she thought, "calling me to get love lines for your lady." Yet she was amused. "This bud of love by summer's ripening breath may prove a beauteous flower when next we meet," Juliet recited sweetly into the phone. "This bud of what's ripe? Can you repeat that?" he said anxiously. Juliet took a deep breath and complied with his request. Did you get all that? Yeah, I did. Thank you. It's great. I like that line. It worked for Juliet, she said. Oh, shoot. Did a woman say that? He sounded disappointed. Yes, a woman said that line, but really it could work for any hopeful lover. Do you think so? He sounded eager. Her heart lurched. Yes, it could. You must have a special lady you're trying to impress. Yeah, she's special, but she's way too far above me. She's got a lot of dough. She grew up at the country club, and I grew up in the trailer park. And I'm a builder, not a stockbroker. I'm sunk before I begin. You must like her a lot if you're going to recite Shakespeare to her. I like her, but this is crazy. Her family will think I'm nuts, just like Romeo. Just like mine did, Juliet thought, a dagger piercing her chest. They all thought Tony had not been good enough for her. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, he finished. Hey, I know that one, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Ma'am, it made her feel ancient. My name is Mrs. West, Juliet. That's a great name, he said, right out of the book you gave us. Thank you, I like it. I'm sorry calling you up late like this. I hope your husband won't get mad. I'm divorced, she said calmly. No kidding, he said, and his voice dropped. That's good to know. Maybe I can try out some of this poetry stuff on you. I've got all the poetry I need, thank you, she said stiffly, but he just laughed again. Catch you later, Miss Teacher Lady, he said, and hung up. Damn it, she thought. Now she would never fall asleep. She finally went to bed after reading a scene from Hamlet and watching a few minutes of Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca. Big hats and smoldering cigarettes and tragic love. Now that was romance. The movie was in black and white, but it was red-hot, sizzling passion. She finally fell asleep about an hour of tossing and turning. Then she had a dream that was a doozy. She was in Jamaica running along a beach. She was slim and tanned and was wearing a tiny bikini, and her muscles were firm and golden brown. She kept looking over her shoulder to see who was chasing her, but she couldn't quite make out his face. He looked like Humphrey Bogart, and then he turned into a composite of all her students. The students, revolving in psychedelic neon colors, morphed into a Frankenstein's monster wearing jeans and cowboy boots. The monster turned into a blonde bodybuilder with a gold earring who was quoting Romeo as he chased her down the beach. Just as she felt his firm hands around her waist, his hot, sweet breath on her neck, she woke up with a groan. She hated sex dreams. She knew what they meant. Her libido was going to reassert itself and cause trouble. She pulled the sheet up under her nose and through her lashes, watched the sunlight streaming through the open window, and felt the breeze refresh her face. Outside, birds were singing in her beautiful garden. Hey, maybe life wasn't so bad after all. The phone rang. Maybe it was her daughter, but it was 3 p.m. in England, and she usually called late at night. Hello? Hi, Mrs. West. Juliet, it's me, Jim Sanders. She played dumb. Who? She asked sweetly into the telephone. You know, me, the old guy from your class last night, the one who's been bugging you about poetry and all that stuff it takes to romance a lady? The nerve. Oh, yes, I remember you now, but you're not that old, are you? I'm 43, he said. Looks younger, she thought. How did Buds of Love go over last night? That sexy chuckle. Not too good. She about laughed in my face. Of course, she had drunk a couple of raspberry martinis and was feeling no pain, so maybe all those, what did you call them, Shakespearean metaphors went right over her head. I see, Juliet sighed. That's too bad. Maybe your lady friend doesn't like Shakespeare. She's too young for me anyway, he said. She was only 25 and really silly. Really? Juliet said. That's younger than my daughter. How old is your daughter? She's 30, Juliet said. Wow, you don't look old enough to have a daughter who's 30. I'm 55, Juliet said coolly. Take that, dude, she thought. He whistled long and low. Wow, you're really a foxy lady for 55. I never saw a teacher in such buffed condition. Never would have guessed. Juliet was pleased at the whistle and then got irritated. What was the point of your call, Mr. Sanders? Are we just chatting about age this morning? I have to get up. I have some work to do. You're still in bed? He sounded very intrigued. No, I was up, but I'm not dressed yet. Darn, too much information. You're not dressed. His voice dropped deeper than the Grand Canyon, a caress like angel's wings against naked skin. What a deep voice you have, Grandpa, she thought. What big teeth, the better to eat you with. Not yet. I slept in today. Do you mind? Of course not. You're a teacher. You work hard. And it's Saturday. You have a lot of papers to read, he said. No, I just wanted to say that maybe this Shakespeare stuff is too heavy for these ladies. Maybe we need to find something more contemporary. He said it like a rapper, a Kanye-style construction dude who was built like Atlas. Yes, your point. Well, I got another lady I'm taking out later, and I wanted to try something more modern on her, so I thought I'd call and get your advice. Are you going to read basketball scores, stock market closings, real estate taxes? That's contemporary information, wouldn't you say? Now that's funny, he said with another chuckle. I know I'm an idiot, but you know what I mean. Maybe we can find another poem that makes more sense to a woman. You mean we, she almost not quite, but almost shouted at him. That laugh again. Please, Miss Teacher Lady, help me one more time. I just need a little poem to impress a lady tonight. How old did you say you were? She asked him. 43. I assume you don't have a wife. Gotta check, she thought. You never know. A pause. I'm not married. My wife died 5 years ago from breast cancer. Juliet sucked in her breath. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I know, I act like a cocky son of a gun, but really I'm a scared puppy who is trying to forget pain and suffering and all that crap. So I'm running around reading poetry, and taking out young ladies like that will make me happy. Do you have children? 2 sons. They're 21 and twins, Randy and Mike. They're the ones who told me to go back to school. They knew I needed to get some culture, Miss Teacher Lady. Stop calling me that, she said, annoyed. Makes you sound like you're in 8th grade. I am in 8th grade when I'm talking to you. You have some strange effect on me. Juliet got breathless. I do? Yeah, it's real weird, but I feel so calm when I talk to you. I feel almost human again. I'm glad, she said, feeling weak in the knees. So what kind of poem are you looking for? Now, don't fall down laughing, but I got a poem I wrote, and I wanted to read it to you and see what you thought. Okay, Juliet said, read it to me. Oh, hell, pardon my language, but I can't do that on the phone. Let me stop by for a minute and you can read it yourself. Why don't you bring it to school on Tuesday night and I'll read it then, she suggested. She was not used to having students come to her house. She had a strict policy, but still, the thought of him sitting at her kitchen table was tempting. But I got a date tonight, remember? He pleaded. And I need you to help me. I'm going to sound more educated. I'm such a diamond in the rough. Something like that, he laughed. Please, can I bring it by? I'm going to be in and out all day, she said. That's okay. I'll just drop by later and see if you're home, he said. I don't think it's a good idea, Juliet said. Why not? You're my student. I'm a big boy, Miss Teacher Lady, he said softly. I don't know, she stammered. I can behave, he said. I got good manners. All right, but I probably won't be home. I'll take that chance, he said. How did you get my address? A low chuckle. I'm a good student. I Googled you. She sighed, naturally. And May, I asked how you got another date so quickly with a lady that also likes poetry. Hey, I go with classy ladies, he said in that low, sexy, let me kiss you all over voice. But this lady, she's into poetry because she's last night's sister. She wants to do everything the other one does. See you later. Juliet looked at the phone. Right, she said to herself. Absolutely incorrigible. She would most certainly not be at home.